Wizards and octopi. A combination that means literally nothing to anyone that isn't a fan of PvZ2. These two represent some of the most hated zombies in the entire game. Seriously, in Flag Zombies community poll, the two most hated zombies are Wizard and Octopus. In that order. Which is impressive when you have missed out I'll make every gargan vulnerable over here, Fisherman Zombie, the single most oppressive zombie you could ever design, Consultant, Roman Ballista, etc, etc. It's certainly an impressive title, though how much of that is because of the location in the main game is absolutely impossible to ignore. Still, it's impressive. These two zombies are fundamentally very similar. They are zombies that disable plants from afar, and only really have minor details that separate them. But this minor difference is something that can change a lot of how you deal with them, and I think it's a fun showcase of how small details can redefine a threat entirely. So, let's compare and contrast the two zombies. Maybe we can learn something about zombie design too. Who knows? Both zombies disable plants temporarily, and do it from a range. They also do it when they touch a plant they would otherwise eat. These zombies are fairly slow, and tend to lag behind, so both tend to be more weak to instant plants than other zombies tend to be, such as Cherry Bomb, Squash, or Ghost Pepper. They also are capable of targeting plants in other lanes, though how they do that is different. The main place they differ, at least visually, is their means of disabling. Wizard zombies disable plants by turning them to sheep, which will disable a plant until the wizard dies, where they will turn back into plants immediately. Octo zombies, in comparison, will throw a projectile that disables a plant. Unlike wizards, these squids will absorb damage, and need to receive damage to be removed. I compare them to graves often, as that's an easy way to describe them. This tends to make octo zombies more dangerous, but they have one major difference that can make them weaker. They fire projectiles that can collide with the ground. Wizards will always convert a plant into a sheep, so if there are 1,000 wizards, your field will become entirely sheep. If there are 1,000 octos, they will all fire the same few plants, meaning that they will waste a lot of their shots, and only a fraction of the plants will be grabbed. This also allows some extra cheese. If you shovel a plant that has been fired at, you can actually waste the octo shot and negate its ability at the cost of a plant. This may seem useless, but you can use this with sunflower meat shields to lose pretty minor plants, allowing you to keep momentum at going against these octos to remove them. That doesn't mean they're weak, however. God no. Octos have a bad habit of clogging up lanes, and they serve to make their world more dangerous. Wizards also synergize their world quite well if you ignore Jester, as both Graves and Kings support it quite nicely. However, Jesters tend to encourage Wizards' counter, Area of Effect, which can punish its low HP. Octo doesn't have the same problem, as it needs a bit more help to counter due to having significantly higher HP. But there's a reason Octo is so much more dangerous. It's about the single most dangerous difference between the two zombies: how they target plants. You may notice I said that both Wizards and Octos can target other lanes, and do that differently, and this makes the enemies much more dangerous. Or, more specifically, makes Octo super dangerous, and Wizard a lot weaker. You may notice that Wizard can sometimes target plants that seem random, but it's not at all. Wizards have a hard pattern. They'll first target the nearest plant on the lane he is on, the lane above him, then the lane below him, then the lane 2 above him, then the lane 2 below him. If this would go forlorn, it just wraps around. This may sound confusing, but once you get used to it, you can generally predict his movements, and use it to distract Wizard. Once this runs out, he will just keep targeting his lane, and I believe he will also prioritize his lane, then nearby lanes if he can't find a target in his pattern, which is important to keep in mind. Octo is very different. He will simply target the nearest plant in his lane, then adjacent lanes. It may seem weird, but this makes Octo a lot more dangerous, and is the most important difference. Don't believe me? Let me explain. Disabling plants is a very dangerous mechanic. You can tell this because the main way plants get disabled is part of the world such as Frostbite Caves, where the gimmick as a whole has a ton of ways to get around it, including an entire mechanic to remove a frost. Yet, alone, it's actually not all that dangerous. Your front line, if you're playing well, should be plants which generally don't mind being disabled. Plants like sunflowers still have their production timers ticked down when transformed after all, and other plants tend to be plants like walls, which you can generally live without for long enough before things become scary. The actual concern is freezing and disabling plants in the back, where your attackers are. Wizards have a bad habit of getting clogged up entirely in the front line. This is simply where the least valuable targets tend to be, so it does make things more manageable. Though, with this in mind, you may have realized why Octo was a more significant problem. If you haven't yet, then let me offer an answer. It tries to break through that front line to the more viable attackers, which when disabled are far more troublesome. Thankfully, though, this isn't done by wizard zombies. Octos can be dangerous, sure, but their projectiles are at least removable. You can outdamage an Octo Zombie squids, and they can't pierce at all, and it's very likely they'll waste shots attacking the same target. If wizards had the same behavior, they would be much harder to remove, and could clear out lanes much more readily, and plants like Ghost would be crucial to deal with these threats before they make the lane useless. Minor changes to zombies cause big ramifications. Keep this in mind. It's easy to write off both zombies as similar, but doesn't take a lot to totally recontextualize a threat, so both enemies can become very different threats. It's a very interesting part of game design that I find fascinating, and a big reason of why I adore PvZ2 zombie design. Otherwise, let me know how this video was. I needed extra time for the next video, and wanted to milk with new structure, so this will be it for this week. This has been Creeps, and have a good one.